My name is Claire Merritt. I was 34 years old when my mother-in-law opened the front door at 11:47 at night and told my 9-year-old daughter to leave. It was January, 31 degrees outside. Mia was wearing a thin sleep shirt and socks. She had no coat, no shoes, no phone. She stood on the porch for exactly 4 seconds before she started walking. What none of them knew, not my mother-in-law Margaret, not my sister-in-law Dana, not my husband's entire family, was that I was sitting in a rental car 2 houses down, engine off, watching every single second of it happen. I had been parked there for 40 minutes, and I had a folder in my passenger seat that was about to end their world. Welcome to her stories. This is where real women tell the truth about the moments that broke them open and what they did with the pieces. If this story speaks to something you have been carrying, stay with me. I married Daniel Merritt when I was 27. He was steady, quiet, the kind of man who remembered your coffee order and fixed things around the house without being asked. His family was loud and warm on the surface, Sunday dinners, birthday cakes, everyone talking over each other at the table. I thought that was love. I was wrong. It was performance. Margaret Merritt ran that family the way a general runs a battalion. Quietly, completely, and without question. Her oldest son, Paul, and his wife had 2 boys, Ethan and Connor, who could do no wrong. They played baseball. They got good grades. They were, in Margaret's words, real Merritt boys. When Daniel and I had Mia, Margaret held her at the hospital for exactly 3 minutes, handed her back, and said, "She has your eyes, Claire." Not Daniel's eyes. Mine. Like that was a problem. Mia grew up knowing she was loved by me and tolerated by everyone else. I didn't see it clearly until it was almost too late. When my company offered me a 6-month contract position in Seattle, more money than I had ever made, a project that could change my entire career, Daniel and I made a decision that made sense on paper. Mia would stay with his parents in Ohio. Daniel was traveling for work every other week. My parents were in Florida dealing with my father's health. Margaret had offered before I even asked. "She's our granddaughter. Of course she'll stay here." I signed the temporary guardianship paperwork. I set up an automatic transfer for Mia's expenses. I kissed my daughter's forehead the night before I left and told her the same thing I always told her. "You are the bravest person I know. And I will come back. I always come back." She held on to me a few seconds longer than usual. I told myself it was just because she'd miss me. I should have listened to those extra seconds. The first month was fine. Margaret sent photos. Mia at the dinner table. Mia at school pickup. Mia in the backyard with Ethan and Connor. But something was off in the photos, and it took me 3 weeks to figure out what it was. Mia was never in the center. She was always at the edge. Always slightly apart. In every single photo, I started calling more. Mia's answers got shorter. "How's school?" "Fine." "Are you eating okay?" "Yes." "Are Grandma and Grandpa being nice?" She paused just long enough before she said yes that I felt it in my chest. I asked Margaret directly, "Is everything okay with Mia?" Margaret said, "She just needs to adjust, Claire. You know how sensitive she is." Sensitive. She said it the way some people say difficult. I called Mia's school. Her teacher, Ms. Brannon, picked up on the second ring. She told me Mia was doing well academically. Then she paused and said something that I wrote down word for word. "She's very quiet lately. She used to raise her hand a lot. She doesn't really do that anymore." I opened a notes app on my phone that night. I typed the date. I typed what Ms. Brannon said. I typed the timestamp of every call where Mia went quiet before answering. I didn't know then that I was building a case. I thought I was just being a worried mother. Both things were true. The drawings started arriving in the mail in month 2. Mia had always drawn. Stick figures, animals, elaborate maps of imaginary kingdoms. I had a shoebox full of them at home. The first one she mailed me showed the Merritt house. Margaret, Paul, Ethan, Connor all inside, smiling. Mia was outside the house, standing by the mailbox, a tiny figure with brown hair and no expression. I called Daniel that night. I told him about the drawing. He said, "Kids draw weird things. She's probably just missing you." I put the drawing in my work bag. I looked at it every morning before I opened my laptop. The The second drawing came 2 weeks later. A dinner table. 6 chairs. 5 people sitting. One chair at the far end, empty, with a small figure standing behind it. Not sitting. Standing. I called a family attorney named Karen Osei that week. I had found her through a colleague. Karen was direct, no nonsense, and did not waste my time. Document everything, she said. Screenshots, dated notes, school communications, anything from the child. If this escalates, you want a paper trail that started before the crisis, not after. I had already started. I just started doing it more carefully. Connor Merritt was 11. He was Margaret's favorite, and he knew it the way kids always know these things. In the way he moved through a room like it belonged to him. In the way he reached for the last piece of food without asking. In the way he looked at Mia sometimes when the adults weren't watching. The lie Connor told was about a bracelet. It belonged to Margaret. Silver chain, small blue stone. Her mother had given it to her. She kept it in a dish on her dresser and only wore it to church. One Tuesday evening, it went missing. Connor told Margaret he had seen Mia looking at it after school, that she had been sneaking around in the bedroom. Margaret did not ask Mia what happened. She called Mia into the living room in front of everyone. Daniel's brother Paul, his wife Sandra, Connor, Ethan, and she held up the empty dish and said, "Where is it, Mia?" Mia said she didn't know. Margaret said, "Connor saw you." Mia said, "I didn't take it, Grandma." What happened next I learned from 3 sources. From Mia herself, later, in a hospital room. From Sandra, who called me the following morning, crying. And from the neighbor across the street, a retired woman named Helen Garza, who had her living room window open that night and heard everything. Margaret told Mia that she had been nothing but trouble since she arrived. That Ethan and Connor were never like this. That some children know how to behave in other people's homes and some don't. Dana, Daniel's sister who had come over for dinner, said from the kitchen doorway, loud enough for everyone to hear, maybe her mother should have thought about this before she ran off to Seattle. Paul said nothing. Sandra said nothing. Ethan watched television. And Margaret said the words that put my daughter on a porch in January in her socks. "I will not have a thief in this house. You can stand outside until you're ready to tell the truth." She opened the front door. She pointed. Mia picked up her stuffed rabbit from the couch. She walked to the door. She stepped outside. The door closed behind her. Here is what they did not know. I had flown in that afternoon. I had not told anyone I was coming. Not Daniel. Not Margaret. Not my own mother. Only Karen Osei knew because I had called her from the airport and told her I was done waiting. Karen had said, "Good. Don't go to the house yet. Park nearby. Watch. If anything happens, call 911 first and me second." I had been sitting in that rental car since 11:04 p.m. The heat was off because I didn't want the exhaust visible. I had a thermos of coffee and Karen's number ready to dial. At 11:47, the front door opened. Light spilled onto the porch. I saw Mia step out. I saw the door close. I saw my daughter stand there for 4 seconds and then start walking down the driveway in her socks. I dialed 911 before I opened my car door. My 9-year-old daughter has just been pushed out of a house at midnight in 31-degree weather. I'm her mother. I'm on the scene. Then I got out of the car and I walked toward her. She saw me from the bottom of the driveway. She stopped walking. She looked at me the way children look at things they're not sure are real. "Mommy?" I was already kneeling on the cold concrete with my arms open. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." She ran the last 6 steps. She crashed into me so hard we both almost fell. She was shaking. Her feet were ice through her socks. She pressed her face into my neck and didn't say anything for a long time. I held her with one arm. With the other hand, I was still holding my phone. The police arrived in 8 minutes. I met them at the curb. The officer's name was Reyes. She was calm, experienced, and when I handed her my folder, the school notes, the drawings, the dated log of phone calls, Karen Osei's contact information, and the temporary guardianship documents, she looked at me the way people look at someone who came prepared. "How long have you been documenting this?" "Since month 2, I told her." She nodded. She went to the door. Margaret opened it, still holding the empty bracelet dish. When she saw the police cruiser, and then saw me standing at the curb holding Mia, the dish slipped in her hands. She grabbed it with both arms against her chest.
Claire.
What are you? How did you? Mrs. Merritt, Officer Reyes said. I need you to step outside, please. The bracelet was found the next morning. Inside Connor's jacket pocket. Sandra found it when she was doing laundry. She called me directly. Her voice was flat and steady, like someone who had been waiting for permission to tell the truth. I knew it wasn't Mia, she said. I should have said something that night.
I'm sorry.
I told her the apology I needed was in the form of a written statement. She gave it. Karen filed the emergency custody modification that Friday. The judge reviewed the documentation, Officer Reyes' report, Ms. Brannon's school records, Helen Garza's neighbor statement, and Sandra's written account. The temporary guardianship was revoked within 48 hours. Margaret and Paul were required to attend a family mediation session before any future contact with Mia could occur. Dana sent me a long text message that I read once and did not respond to. Daniel and I had harder conversations that month than we had in 7 years of marriage. I will not tell you how those conversations ended because that is its own story, and Mia is the only story that matters here. 3 months later, Mia and I were back in our house. Her room had the same purple curtains, the same bookshelf, the same shoebox of drawings under her bed. She added a new drawing to the box the first week we were home. She showed it to me before she filed it away. 2 figures. One small with brown hair. One taller with a thermos in her hand. Standing together at the end of a driveway in the dark. Above them she had drawn stars, small yellowed, across the top of the page. Underneath, in careful letters, she came back. I asked her if I could keep it. She thought about it for a second. Then she said, only if you put it somewhere you can see it.
It is on my desk, right now.
As I tell you this, I want to say one thing before I go. I did not scream. I did not threaten. I did not show up at that house and make a scene. I made a plan. I built a file. I drove a rental car to Ohio, and I sat in the cold, and I waited. Because protecting your child does not always look like fighting. Sometimes it looks like parking 2 houses down with a folder on your passenger seat and Karen Osei on speed dial. The people who hurt your child are counting on you to react. They are not prepared for you to document. If this story reminded you that quiet strength is still strength, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. This is Her Stories. I'll see you in the next one.